It is so good to see your face. How are you doing, love?
I am very excited. I feel like I might be like on Saturday Night Live when you get like a five-timer robe. Am I a five-timer yet on the
I think
podcast?
you're a four-timer. You
Okay,
you
okay.
get
Now
you
next
are the
one, now a
record.
robe, okay?
You're my record holder. Four times on the show, but it's been a while since the last time I had you on the show, and so much has shifted for both you and me. But we're going to be focusing on you today. Many conversations we've had over the years, not only in person but also on the show, has really been centered around meditation. And I think in this beautiful journey you've been in, you often say that meditation alone isn't necessarily enough anymore. And I'd love for you to go into what you mean by that and how has your approach evolved to meet the movement, to meet where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that the intensity on planet Earth is exponentially increasing. And the tools that helped us 10, 15 years ago, I mean, they can still be a part of the foundation. But I think that just like if you're a doctor, right, and someone comes in with a skinned knee, you're going to give them different medicine than if they have stage 4 cancer, right? Like those are different treatment protocols. And
Yes.
right now, the level of stress and adaptation and rate of change on the planet is much different than it was 16 years ago. And I think that's why I've been getting, my intuition's been getting very loud of like, hey, Emily, you know that thing that you did for meditation? You know how you helped to make this sort of esoteric thing very accessible and attractive to a mainstream audience? Well, now it's time for you to do that with even more potent and even more taboo modalities. And so meditation is still 100% a part of my daily practice. It's still 100% what we teach at Ziva. And I think it's an extraordinary important foundation. But now what I'm doing is that I'm helping people to get basically their head, their heart, and their bodies all deeply in line with where they want to go, not only for themselves, but also for the planet, like for the species. Like, I think that this is a time for us to be, I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, like, yes, like think globally, act locally. It's like we want to be dreaming globally and then acting locally. Like what is my legacy? What world do I want to hand my children? If many of the systems that we know and have relied on for most of our lives are changing, which they are, how do I want to be a part of birthing the new earth? Like what role do I want to play in birthing this new reality? And I think it's a fascinating time to be alive as a human. And also when things change, it can create stress. I just want to acknowledge that it can create fear and uncertainty. And so what I have found is that the bigger the fear, the bigger the feelings, the bigger the tool wants to be. And so I've developed this new body of work. It's all around embodied manifesting. And it is not only getting clear on what you want, it's not only allowing yourself to feel so, so good that so you can be a vibrational match for the thing, but it's also giving you big tools to feel the intensity of whatever it is that you're feeling. And that might include rage or grief or sorrow. And I know that that's not really a sexy sales pitch because most of us have spent most of our lives trying to avoid those feelings. But I'm sure you see it in your practice, right? Of like, if you shove down your emotions, eventually they're going to show up on the 3D realm. And I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I have a theory that menopause and perimenopause, like if you've been spending decades not feeling your emotions, you might have to pay the piper in a different way as you go through these hormonal changes. Just like every month, your cycle is a bit of a report card on how you've been feeling and eating and acting and exercising that month. I have a theory that the same is true, but on a larger scale when we start to approach these big life changes. And that's happening on like a really big scale globally,
Yeah.
right? It's like the systems that have not been serving us are falling away. And so we have the opportunity to manifest, to bring from the unmanifest into the manifest an entirely new reality. And so I think that's going to take some really beautiful tools. And that's what I've been working on for the past 5 years. And the simple formula of what that is visualize, alchemize, magnetize. So I just help people get really clear on what it is that they want, even in a time of change. What do I want? What would I love? What would I love to leave my children? What would I love in my bank account? What would I love my relationship to my body to feel like? And then alchemize. And that alchemy is basically anything that's not a match for the dream, anything that's not a match for the desire. We go in and we feel it. We feel it all the way. We move it through the body with dance, with breath, with sound, because, emotions want to be in motion. Feelings are meant to be felt. Feelings are meant for feeling. And then that alchemy creates space for the third ingredient, which is magnetize. And the magnetize is where things get really fun, because that's when we get to turn on the magnet and the generator of the body. It's where we get to amplify the feel good chemistry in the body so that, again, we become an energetic match for whatever it is that we desire.
Yeah, one of the things I loved, I have had the opportunity to move through this beautiful process with you back last year in January of 2024. And the alchemizing was so profound for me in perimenopause. Particularly, I mean, I'm in perimenopause, was in perimenopause back then. And, I think you nail it on the head when you say, if we've been suppressing these feelings, if we've been suppressing who we are meant to be, if we've been suppressing what we desire, and then in perimenopause, I always say everything is up for review. It's all coming up. If you haven't addressed it, it is available now. And
Girl, that is a really good line, because that's true. Everything is up for negotiation.
yes, everything, your partner, your job, your relationships, your health, it's all up for review. And all of these emotions are coming up. Women are feeling blindsided by the anxiety, the depression, the rage, the mood swings, the irritability, all of that is coming up. And probably one of the most profound aspects of the magic that you walked us through for me was alchemizing and moving it through. So many of the women that I know are just stretched thin, right? They're stretched thin. They're being blindsided by these changes, and all they're being told is to manage stress. But there's a big difference between managing stress and alchemizing it. Yes. And I'd love for you to help walk us through. I know you just talked about it for a second, but how can that really, I know for my women in midlife who are like, whoa, I don't.
Under your hat.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a lot, right? Talk about what you've seen in terms of alchemizing, processing, alchemizing stress, alchemizing trauma, and what do we see on the other side?
Yeah. So what a beautiful question. So I've spent the last 16 years, helping people to manage stress, and not just manage it, not just an app of like, oh, I'm feeling a little stressed. Let me do a guided visualization. Let me change my state in the now. Like the meditation that I teach very much does create a trait change, and you go in and give your body deep rest. You flood the brain and body with dopamine and serotonin, and you can really start to heal stress at the root. But that is different than going in and having a safe space, and even like, dare I say, a game. It's almost like I create like a bit of a game where like, okay, we're going to play the game right now of like, how much can you rage? Or like if everyone in the room is like yelling or punching pillows or like shoving against a wall, and you're listening to fun, ragey music, then it's almost like, oh, it's not like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Because I think for most of our lives, we've been trained to think like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm only lovable if I'm happy. I'm only lovable if I'm polite. I'm only lovable if I'm agreeable.
Or I'm playing small.
And so we betray ourselves. And I know this is not everyone, but for many of us, and especially women, we get really good at overriding our own feelings. Maybe there wasn't space for our feelings. Maybe it wasn't safe for us to feel our feelings. And so if you get many decades of that, then we need a real pattern interrupt. And that's really what the alchemize section of Ziva Magic is. It's about giving people the safety, the tools, and the empowerment to be like, hey, like how big can you make this? Like, can we even, dare I say, make it fun? And then usually that rage, that sacred rage, is protecting something a little bit younger and a little bit more vulnerable. Usually it's protecting some sadness. Mm-hmm. And the way I frame all of this is inside of the manifesting. So what I do is that I have people drop in and get really clear, like I was saying, like, what is it that you would love? And I invite anyone listening right now to just tune in. Like if you could wave a magic wand over your life, your family, your body, your hormones, your relationship, your bank account, like what was one thing that you would love? And I walk people through getting really clear on like, what does that vision look like and feel like? And then from there, it's like, all right, where are you not already an energetic match for that? Like, where is there some fear, some trauma, some limiting beliefs, some old patterns, some unexpressed emotions? Because the thing is, if we don't express the emotions, they get internalized. And then that is usually what blocks us from being a match for the thing that we desire. Because in manifesting, the number one rule is we don't get what we want, we get who we are. So if you have 3 decades of swallowed rage or 3 decades of swallowed sorrow, you just aren't going to be a match for likely almost anything that you desire. But the cool thing is that once you move through alchemy and you get to express it and even alchemize it, into fuel for the dream, then it's like, oh, the very thing that you thought was keeping you from your desire can actually become your superpower. Because it's usually that vulnerability, that freaky thing about us, the very thing that traumatized us also likely gave us a superpower. And so if we're running around hiding that and not feeling it, then it's harder to uncover the gift that's in the mud. It's like no mud, no lotus, right? Like if there is no junk, then you don't get the gold. And so it's really about giving people the empowerment, the tools, the safety, the fun to go in and express the unexpressed feelings. And I really believe there's a Lakota, it was a man named Doug Goodfeather. He's a Lakota elder. And he said that he believes that the entirety of the suffering on the planet right now is a direct result of uncried tears on the planet. Thousands of years of uncried tears. And we know that epigenetically, we're inheriting trauma from many generations past. Some say 3, some say 7. But we think about our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, like how they weren't going to therapy. They weren't going to AA. They weren't going to perimenopause summits. They weren't going to meditation classes. And so we've inherited that. So the alchemized portion, really, I've just seen it be such a game changer. Like I just got back from a retreat, a Ziva Magic retreat this weekend. And there was a woman who was dealing with very extreme brain and body trauma. Like she had an actual physical injury. And after the first alchemized ceremony, I watched her come back in her body. And then after breath work, which is also a part of Ziva Magic, she said she reconnected to her own divinity. I'm 46 years old. It was the most miraculous thing I've ever seen. And the cool thing that people say is that even in an online container, that they feel really held and really supported. It is called Ziva Magic. So we're about transcending time and space.
Well, I can speak to that personally, being it was online. I remember, and at the time, my son was 3, now he's 4. And my husband and son were out of town, which was a gift. But even still, I would have been able to pull it off in my room by myself. And I remember the alchemizing, we alchemized 2 days in a row. And it was the alchemy aspect of this that felt just so incredible. Like getting to move through all those emotions. And on the back end of that for me was so much sadness. But then we were at the end of the alchemizing where we were just moving through these emotions and just really, it felt like I kind of cleared the slate and I was open. Yes. I was available for that next piece, the manifestation. And it was just so profound.
Yes. And that's exactly it. Like, that's why people are like, well, why would I want to go in and rage? Why would I want to go in and cry? And it's like, not because anyone wants to rage, not because anyone wants to cry, but because that does clear the channel for you to be an empty vessel. And nature does not like a vacuum, right? So nature is going to fill you up with bliss. Nature is going to fill you up with pleasure. And that's why we really consciously move into the magnetized portion. And in magnetized, like I said, we're turning on the magnet and the generator of the body, which is really just giving people access to their own life force, or what I call creation energy. And actually, the most creative force on the planet is our sexual energy. And anyone that's, going through perimenopause knows this, that it's like, oh, like any dormant sexual energy of like, it's like those last like eggs, that last like fertility is like, come on, baby, like it's go time. I'm on a mission to rebrand perimenopause as super sexy. I think you're doing a great job of it.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like I said, everything's up for review and you get to decide. Like if you feel like your libido is going to the wayside or you've lost connection to that intimacy or things are just falling flat, we get to reignite that. But it's a decision. It really is. And that's why I wanted you back on, because I wanted to talk about how we get to choose into it. This isn't about like, oh, it feels like it's fluttering away. Again, everything is up for review. You get to decide if you want that back. You get to decide if you want to clear your trauma. You get to decide if you want to clear the stress and alchemize the emotions and let go of the beliefs that have been hindering you from living your truest potential. And then you get to be open to that superpower, that creation energy of manifesting what you really want in the second half of your life.
Yes. Amen. And I feel like, I had the pleasure of living with Regina Thomas Shower for 4.5 years, AKA Mama Gina. And I just want to acknowledge her that, she's really been at this work for 30 years and she developed a thing called swamping, which is very much informed emotional alchemy. So I just really want to celebrate her, but also living with her. She's 60, I think, I don't know, late 60s. And more turned on, more radiant, more in her flow, having more sex than any 40-year-old I've ever met. And so she's such a living example of like, you do get to choose, but to your point of like, it's a choice. And that's why I love these tools. And it's why like Ziva Magic is so profound, is because it's going to help you get clear on the dream. It's going to help you clear anything that's not an emotional or an energetic match. But then there's a whole reclamation process that can happen around your body and your pleasure, as one, remembering it as holy, like remembering it as a divine gift, that the very creator that installed these codes and hormones and feelings and bliss and pleasure inside of us, like why would nature install that in our bodies if nature did not want us to use it? And so I've found that people who've suffered from a lot of abuse or trauma or religious trauma or shame or conditioning around their pleasure, that they have a massive reclamation where it's like, oh, wait, you mean my pleasure could be my own? And even like not good or bad, but like, you mean this could be mine and not for my partner? What you mean that I could like dedicate this pleasure to my dream? What you mean I could like make love to my dreams? I could make love to my future self? And that's really what we're into. It's like we get to flood the brain and body with not only dopamine and serotonin, which is what happens in meditation, but we also start to bring in some oxytocin, some norepinephrine, some adrenaline, did I say oxytocin, the love hormone?
Yeah, the love
All of those
hormone.
like
Yes.
feel good love chemicals that get released when we're in a state of pleasure. And then what happens is that we come back to the vision. We come back to the thing that we're manifesting from this state where we have flooded our brains and bodies with all this feel good chemistry. And what happens there is that the brain then starts to associate the dream with feeling really good. And that can rewire the circuitry in the brain, because when we're stressed, like if you're just walking down the street and thinking about like, man, I would love $1,000,000, or like you're just super stressed out. You're like, God, when am I going to meet my person? Or if you're just super stressed, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do about my taxes this month. Then you're basically associating the desire to fear. And when that amygdala takes over, which is, the fear center of the brain, it takes a lot of blood and energy to run that amygdala. And so if you're manifesting or thinking about your desires from a place of fear, it's like you're crossing the wrong wires. You're basically watering the weeds instead of watering the flowers. So when you walk through the Ziva Magic formula of visualize, alchemize, magnetize, you're in such an amazingly open state that if you go into the five senses reality of that vision, of that dream, when your body is saturated with bliss and pleasure, when the opportunity comes, which it will, you're going to start to receive that opportunity as if you would like a long lost friend or a long lost lover, instead of a death grip of like, oh no, this thing, I have to make it work because it's going to make or break my happiness. And so it's a technique that's been used for thousands of years. We're just doing it in a way that's really accessible and fun and easy to start.
Mm. Well, one of the things that you talk about, and I remember being in the event, was really we're feeling this into existence. And to me, like I love visualization. I love being in the energy. I think one of the things that you said that was so profound that I have in my journal is that feel good, place the order, feel good. And that's it. Yes.
Feel good, place the order, feel good, place the order, feel good. That's my simple little manifesting song.
I love it. But that's what we're talking about. We're feeling it into existence. And that's very different than just, kind of just imagining the visualization. Like it's so much more potent, so much more powerful because you're really in the energy of it.
Yes. And, I think we're living in a day and age where manifestation has become pretty mainstream. And most people in the wellness world know that like thoughts become things, what we put our attention on grows, that everything is first an idea before it becomes into the manifest. And that is all true. It's just that Ziva Magic, the reason why it's called Ziva Magic is that it really does feel like magic. Like if you get your head, your heart, and your hoo-ha, which by the way, everybody has a hoo-ha, and I'm referring to, yes, the anatomy, but also the energetic field around it. So just like your heart has an electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times more potent than the head, by the way. So the electromagnetic field of our hearts is 5,000 times more magnetic and has more electricity than that of our heads. So even if that's all we had was head-heart coherence, which thank you, Heart Math Institute, they've done an extraordinary amount of research on that, what happens when we get head and heart coherence. And that is step one, yes. But now I'm saying, let's also get the hoo-ha involved. Let's also get your pleasure, the actual generator of your body online, and then head, heart, and hoo-ha pointed towards the dream. Plus, you've exercised the very same muscle, like what we keep talking about with alchemize, that same muscle that has the capacity to hold space for your pain is the same muscle that holds space for your pleasure, right? Because it's like, if good luck feeling the full capacity of your pleasure if you spent 4 decades numbing your pain.
Yeah.
Right? Like that callus doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So before I even touch the pleasure, I make sure that people are equipped to hold themselves in their sorrow, to hold themselves in their upset. And then the beauty is like, as the callus starts to fall away, we're like, oh, I'm actually just more sensitive all over. I have more space to feel good and place the order.
Yeah, I'm curious because I've thought about like the people who attend, and the women particularly who attend, and how so often we can be, like you said, we can be numb, we can be disassociated, we can be disconnected to our body, to ourselves, and I think the way that you've structured this is that anyone coming in feeling that way, and maybe not even feeling safe coming in initially, because of the way that you've built it, there's an unfolding and a safety that comes through so that by the time you get to magnetize, you're ready. But I'd love for you to share, how often do you find people coming through feeling a bit disconnected or just a little bit numb and lost? And, as they move through the process, especially feeling those emotions and then really clearing the channel for the kind of connecting to that manifestation, that feel good. Talk to me a little bit about that transformation. I know you shared about the one woman that you experienced just last weekend. I saw some of those videos on social, which looked freaking amazing. But I know that so many of my women are feeling that way, feeling disconnected.
Well, I just want to say thank you for bringing it up. And I'd say it's probably 90% of the people who come in. 90% of the people are feeling scared, numb, like, is this for me? Am I going to get in trouble? Like, there's just we are swimming, just like we're swimming in misogyny and racism and capitalism. Like, we're also swimming in an extraordinary amount of sexual shame. And just like psychedelics have been sort of othered and ostracized and feared, because that can be a direct pathway to your own visceral experience of divinity. It's the same with sexual energy. It's just that it's internal pharmacology versus external pharmacology. And if you think about, for thousands of years, like the temple arts, priests and priestesses, if we didn't have Oxycontin on hand because there weren't pharmaceutical companies running the planet, what medicines did we have available to us? We had, herbs, we had flowers, we had essential oils, which I know you know all about, but we also had our own adrenaline, our own oxytocin, our own norepinephrine. We had this whole cocktail of things that the brain produces organically. And that's what the priests and priests were using at birth, at death, at sickness, to help people in these massive transition points in their lives. And we've lost a lot of that wisdom, like just through the eradication of temple arts, but also not for nothing, like in the witch hunt. It wasn't just a few 100,000 women who were killed. It was millions. Millions of women were killed in Europe alone. And so, like, how much of these tools, how much of this knowledge, one, was eradicated, but two, like, how much fear did that instill in those of us who survived? Of like, oh, well, no, I can't talk about that because I might get killed. And then even if you take that out of it, of the epigenetic piece of it, just, I grew up Southern Baptist, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida.
Catholic over here.
Yeah. So like, how much guilt and shame and should and shouldn't did like a man probably tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing with your body and with your pleasure? And what was the punishment? Like, oh, burning in eternal hell. So it's not just like a little slap on the wrist. And so I just want to acknowledge that for anyone coming into this feeling like, oh, I'm scared, or I feel ashamed, or I feel numb, or I feel like there's something wrong with me. Like, of course you do. Of course you feel like that. It makes so much sense. And that's actually why I think that this medicine is so needed right now, because like you said, there is enough safety and there's enough community and there's enough of a soft, gentle unfolding of the process so that by the time you get even to the alchemize, you're like, okay, I know I can do this. And always we're titrating, right? Like, I never want to take people past their threshold of tolerance. So it's not a race. It's not like, oh, who can rage the most or feel the most pleasure. It's like, what feels safe in your nervous system? What's ready to be released? What's ready to be? And alchemy, by the way, it's actually the magical, like the Webster's dictionary for alchemy and I'm a little bit paraphrasing, but I know it says the word magical. It's the magical process of transforming one thing into another. So what if you could magically transform decades of shame into liberation? What if we could alchemize decades of trauma into fuel for your dreams? What if we could alchemize stress into bliss? And I realized that that's what I've been doing my whole career. I've been doing this 16 years now. And I recently learned, and this is pretty woo-woo, but here goes. My power animal is a peacock. I had a friend who went on this whole journey and she's like, yeah, you're a peacock. And yes, I'm a Broadway showgirl. And yes, I love a fan kick. And yes, all that is true.
You do
But
a great
really,
fanfic, girl.
I love a fan kick. She's like, you think people are drawn to you because of the like beauty and the show and the fun, and that's part of it. But actually, people are coming for the depth of the transmission. They're coming for the depth of the medicine. And then she said that peacocks eat poisonous snakes and turn that poison into their feathers. They eat venom and alchemize it into beauty. And I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing my whole career. I've been alchemizing stress into bliss and now trauma into fuel for the dreams. And it feels like such an honor. And, I'm just fresh off of this Ziva Magic retreat right now. So just having seen it in real time of people who, like a woman who since she was 3 was carrying the pain of her mother. Like during breath work, she said her mom came in and was like, hey girl, this is not yours to hold anymore. You can let it go. And her whole face changed. Like another one had extraordinary abuse as a child. And like, she just let it go. Like it just transformed. And she like energetically got so much lighter. And I've seen this happen not thousands, but many, many hundreds of times over because I'm relatively new to this world. We're a couple years in. But I think to the original question of we're in an extraordinary time on planet Earth and we're going to need extraordinary tools to navigate this. We're not owning our way out of this one.
Well, in the remember, and I've worked it through multiple times after I did the retreat, and they were, again, you're right, we're going to need these bigger, more profound, more magical tools to move us through to manifest what we want, to become who we want, to live the life that we've always imagined, but maybe we were scared to finally fully claim. And even the breath work in this work is just so powerful. And I know we do breath work out after the big alchemization. And I love that because after you're feeling all the feelings and maybe feelings you've been suppressing for a very, very long time, you get to settle into the breath work and into starting to visualize. And then you get to move into that part of that magnetize. So the way that you've structured this, the flow is so perfect. It's a lot to hold or a lot to release in the alchemized aspect part of it, especially if it hasn't been something you've done in a long time or you've been repressing or suppressing, especially if you're in the middle of a really big transition, like say perimenopause or divorce or whatever that may be, or all of that. And then you get to go into that breath work where you get to feel into yourself, this new version of yourself that maybe you've never felt. And then I feel like that really primes the pump for the pleasure portal, really. And that's really the last part, because I know you've been talking about that aspect. And I know someone listening are like, let me go into that. And one of the things that you say is your pleasure is not optional. It is a portal. And so for all of the women that are feeling disconnected from their pleasure, and I'm talking about all pleasure, right? That they get to reclaim that. They get to reclaim and they can move forward in that pleasure. I think that that process is such a beautiful reminder of what we get to have.
Amen. And to your point, like, the pleasure doesn't have to be exclusively sexual. It doesn't have to be like in a bedroom or with a partner or on your own. Like it could be, could I wash my dishes in a way that is like, I love the smell of this soap and I'm going to put on my favorite song and put on an apron that like brings me joy. Or as I pack my kids' lunches, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a little smiley face on the lunchbox or write them a love note, or I'm going to, like you could infuse anything in your life with pleasure. And I think that that's really the trick, is that yes, we want to do, like in Ziva Magic, it's like a big ceremonial dose of pleasure. But in the course as well, we also teach you how to microdose pleasure. And that could be a 1-song dance party. That could be calling a friend on a commute. That could be going for one walk without your phone, which I know is like a wild
idea. Yeah.
Wild idea. Maybe even turning your phone off for a few hours. But so there's little microdoses of ways to just create something that is a more pleasant and pleasurable experience. And for people who have spent a life of people pleasing, of pleasing others who actually don't know what it is to please themselves. This can be a radical, radical reclamation.
Agreed. Agreed. I love it because I think what it does is it touches on sacred union, it touches on emotional alchemy, it touches on healing trauma, but more importantly, it touches on, opening the life that you've always wanted to live, letting go of the belief that you've been holding on to. I think and I think so many of us, even as deeply as we want that, we dare to say it or we dare to act on it. But what if this was the permission right here?
Yeah. Well, that's, I'd say, the number one feedback that I get from people where they're just like, oh, Emily, I felt so much permission. Like you're like a walking permission slip. And I've gotten it with meditation where it's like, oh, I finally have permission to think. I had permission to not sit like a frozen statue. I had permission to not be perfect in the meditation. And now I hear like, oh, I have permission to be in my pleasure. I have permission to reclaim my body for myself and as my own. I have permission to feel good. And look, in a society where we create unity by like, oh God, isn't it terrible? Like, oh, isn't the weather shitty? Or like, oh God, can you believe this economy? Like we find, and because we're tribal by nature, it's scary to be like, I feel amazing. I'm having amazing sex. My body's getting better as I age. My hormones are balanced. Like that would be weird to go on the playground or go to the PTA meeting and say that and really celebrate how amazing you are, how amazing you feel, because we're swimming in people who are not feeling good. And so then because it feels scary to not be accepted by the tribe, we just keep like minimizing ourselves or diminishing our energetic frequency. And so I'm like, what if we played a different game? Like we get to choose, like, but let's just play a different game to be like, how good can it get? Can we bring the frequency of heaven here to earth? Like, I believe that heaven is a vibration and not a destination. So it's like, can we start to vibrate at the frequency of heaven right here, right now? Could we start to use our pleasure to pray? And who said it was bad? Who said it was wrong? Who said we had to suffer in order to earn what it is that we desire? And why? Right? Like, this is like, who said that feeling good was bad? Who said I had to suffer? And what did they get out of that?
Right. Yeah. Always like, what's the negative? What's the kind of
Follow the money.
Yeah, exactly. But also like, downplaying how we're feeling, downplaying our wins, downplaying all of that so that we could just fit in. I love the idea of playing a different game. And really it's about, having those people in your life that are willing to play the game, like that game with you. And that kind of leads one to my last question, because I know people always wonder, well, like, how does this play out in every day for you, Emily? Like, how are you creating magic every day? But also, what is that bringing you? I mean, this is really the work you're here to do in the world, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about how that's showing up for you on the daily.
Oh, well, I have a tendency to dream really big. Like I have big, audacious dreams, like stadiums filled with people like holding a shared vision for the planet and bringing themselves into like peak pleasurable states. 13,000 people at the pyramids, in a high state of coherence and pleasure at the same time, like big dreams. And then sometimes it's like, well, I can get a little frustrated with the like day to day of like, why am I looking at this copy on this one ad for this one? It's just like the minutia. I'm like, come on, can we just get to the stadium already? Or can we just go to the pyramids? And I'll say that like in the audacity of my dreams and in the audacity of being willing to feel good and place the order, that there have been things that are lining up and showing up like beyond what I knew to pray for. Let's just say that the stadium is getting very close. And I'd sort of given up on that dream where I was like, oh, you know what? The stadium doesn't want to be a stadium anymore. It actually just wants to be Egypt. And then the stadium is now showing up kind of like with no admin on my part. Like I get to just like show up.
I love
Which
it.
is exactly what we want. And then I'll say that also just on the pleasure front is that I'm 46. I'm a single mom. I'm a CEO. Like I don't have like copious amounts of extra time to, I don't have like a 2-hour self-pleasure practice, and yet I would say that the cool thing about pleasure is that there is no ceiling. Like there's no ceiling on the amount of pleasure that is available to you. It's like you just keep finding new realms and new realms and new realms. And that's happening for me, where it's like, oh, wow, there's like a whole new universe. And just when I think I've peaked, there's like it's like the ceiling goes away and there's a whole nother echelon of pleasure that's available. And I think that that is very directly related to what it is that I'm manifesting. Because I mean, I very much believe that you feel good and you place the order. So the better you feel, the higher quality things you attract. Now, I will just name that anything can be used as medicine or poison. You could poison someone with water. And,
Yeah.
my friend Lauren Taus, who's a medicine woman, she's like, drugs are innocent and you can use them to say hello or to say goodbye. And so if you think of your sexual energy as an internal drug or an internal pharmaceutical, you can use it to say hello or say goodbye. So I do just want to name that, like, yes, of course, there's a world where you could lock yourself in the room and just be like, oh, I'm just going to feel good all day. But really, that's like saying goodbye. So of course, our intentions want to be in the right place. And that's why we start with so much coherence. That's why we start with getting clear on the dream that ultimately, yes, this is for you, but also what are you contributing to society, right? Like, how are you creating heaven in your own body and then delivering that to your family, to your coworkers, to your community? Because, the world needs your bliss right now. Like, people are like, well, how could you possibly? I remember last year we did this event called Magic Maker, which we're going to do again, which I'd love to invite people to. It's a free event called Magic Maker. And I started with the Nina Simone song, Feeling Good. And spoiler alert, there was crisis happening on the planet then, and there will probably be crisis happening on the planet in July when we do this free event. And people were in the comments being like, I feel so guilty. Like, how dare you play this song? Like, how dare you feel good? I feel guilty feeling good right now. And I was like, ma'am, your suffering is not helping anyone, but your bliss, your pleasure has the potential to change the world. And if you just take all of the storyline out of it, if you just look at the energetic checks and balances, us suffering about people suffering is just adding more suffering. And I believe that as things get darker on the planet, we have not only an opportunity, but a responsibility to bring more light. And we can do that through our energetics, through our frequency. And this formula that's been birthing through me for the past 5 years, it's the fastest minimum viable product that I've found to really shift people's state in a dramatic and sustainable way.
Well, and you've created the most incredible container to do it as well, which is that's what it's so exciting about it. The process, the flow, the container, the community, all of it. I mean, I think I want anyone listening today, when you're listening to this, just think to yourself, like, would you love to not only be in the energy of feeling good, of pleasure, of connection? And like you said, there's no ceiling to that. You get to have it. It's available to you. But then leveraging that beautiful feeling to create a life that you've been dreaming or that you've been wanting to dream. Like, I think a lot of us are holding on to something that we're not willing to verbalize or share or say or feel into. But what if today was that opportunity that you get to join this free event, this free class, and to just get to feel into that and then take that next step, right? It's all about, in this conversation, what I wanted from Emily was to invite you into the next step. If this has been on your heart or you've been wanting to feel this, but weren't ready to feel this, and you were like, hey, universe, show me a sign and make it impossible to miss, like, this is it.
Amen. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's what we're going to do at Magic Maker. I'm going to do a free workshop, and it's 3 hours. Like, this is not like a quick in and out. Like, this is like giddy up, saddle up, like bring your water bottle, come prepared, because not only are you going to experience profound transformation at this free workshop, selfishly, I want to get thousands and thousands of people there in coherence with themselves and each other, using their pleasure to pray. Like, I selfishly want to do it now. Like, why wait till Egypt? Why wait till the pyramids? Let's do it online right here, right now. Like, the world needs our prayers. The world needs our pleasure. And I feel really excited.
You won't be alone. There will be thousands of people with you, standing with you.
And there is magic in that. They've done so much studies on like what happens when groups of people meditate together. Obviously, no one's done a study on this yet, but we know that coherence is real.
Yes.
And so I wouldn't miss the opportunity to come and amplify your prayers, to amplify your manifestations with what's going to be happening at Magic Maker. So it's July 22nd. It's going to be 3 hours, and you're going to get to come and taste like a bit of the Ziva magic formula. Like, I'm going to walk you through the visualize, the alchemize, and a bit of the magnetize. And then if you want to actually deepen, that's when doors are going to open for Ziva Magic, which is this beautiful 10-week transformative container that you've been talking about, that you got to experience in real time in its own way. So I'm so excited to invite people to this. I know you have a link.
I have a link. I've got the Ziva Meditation Masterclass. I'll have the link in the show notes. Go register. Again, it's free, and be ready for the full 3-hour experience. Like she said, saddle up, have your emotional support water, and, carve out time.
Emotional support water.
Get it scheduled, and because you deserve it. You deserve this 3 hours together. You deserve to experience this. And that's why we all deserve this moment. I'm going to be there. And so again, go get that link right now, get signed up, and get ready to have your mind blown, right? Get ready to feel what you haven't been feeling. Get ready to, again, feel good, place the order, feel good.
And yeah, I just want to name, like, if people are like, oh, I don't want to feel what I haven't been feeling, just know that, like, we're going to make it fun. We're going to make it safe, and we're going to do it in a way that's going to take you, like, I'm going to walk you to your edge. Like, I'm a double Aries, so I'm going to walk you to your edge, but I'm not going to take you past your edge. Right. And so it's going to be big medicine, but it's going to have a little candy coating on it. We're going to have a great playlist. We're going to have a great community, and you are going to leave this thing feeling like so clear on your dreams, so open, and hopefully very turned on and excited to take the next step, whatever that is for you.
I love it. Oh, I love it. It feels good already. It just feels good. Oh, honey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tapping into your own beliefs, potential, pleasure, all of it, and then alchemizing it out for all of us. Like, what a beautiful gift that you are to this world.
Oh, I love you. And I feel the same. Like, thank you for teaching us about the taboo topics, right? Because menopause and perimenopause is taboo, and you are like changing the conversation. And so I feel, and I'm actually like, as I'm entering perimenopause, I'm like, oh, like, this is it. Like, we need these tools.
Oh no, like, that's why I was like, you have to come on the show, because this is the moment. This is the reckoning. This is the review. This is the opportunity to decide that what I was tolerating, I'm not tolerating anymore. What I was dealing with or being okay with, the obligations, the crap, the relationships that weren't serving me, like, it's all burning to the ground. And I get to rise up like the phoenix I deserve to be into the second half of my life, where it is done on my terms. It is done in my energy, and it is in my vision and what I would love. That's what this is. We just need the tools. We need the rock star priestess to come on in, show us how to do it.
Because call me the rock star priestess, because I might put that on my website immediately.
Show us the way, girl. Walk us through this. Walk us through the fire. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in the fire. That's where we're at right now. And it's time for, like, we get permission to get walked through this. Just imagine who you're going to be on the other side.
I will say, you're going to be hotter. You're going to be happier. You're going to be clearer about your dreams, and you're going to have a lot more capacity for pleasure. Those things I can promise you.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want that? Let's sign up. Giddy up. Emily, honey, thank you so much.
I love you. I'm so excited to make more magic with you.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are ready to learn more about perimenopause and how to navigate with a lot of ease and grace, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can join our community. Don't forget to share this video with someone that you love, that you know is navigating the perimenopause journey as well, because they deserve to feel their best too. See you in the next video.